Welcome to this meeting of the Braintree District Council Cabinet on the 17th, is it?
17th. 16th.
Yes, 16th. I'm rushing ahead to Christmas, to the 16th of December. We have tonight apologies from Councillors Dervish, Pell, Garrod, Jeffries and Heath. Are there any other apologies that anyone has? No? Okay. Just before I go on to declarations of interest, just want to say clearly today's been an interesting day with the publication of the white paper, long-awaited white paper on local government reform. I have sent a note out to all members just to update them with what we know at the moment. Clearly there'll be a lot of discussions going on, and I think it also gives the link to where they can actually read the white paper themselves as well. And I'm sure everyone will be sat there reading it this evening if there's nothing else on the television. But anyway, that's something for us to be dealing with in the near future, I'm sure. So I'll move on to item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest anyone wishes to raise? No? Right, thank you. Excuse me. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. To approve a correct record, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 25th of November. Copies have been circulated. Are you happy that that is a true record? Agreed. And I sign them. I will do. Thank you. Item 4, public question time. There are no registered speakers registered tonight to speak, so we will move on to item 5, which is the waste service review, and I go to Councillor Tom Cunningham, who will introduce this paper. Tom.
Chairman, thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to be bringing forward this paper outlining Braintree District Council's proposed response for consultation with residents to the changing requirements for waste collection in line with government directives known as collection and packing reforms and the simple recycling policy. For many years, Braintree District Council's waste collection service has had the high regard of fellow local residents, combining a comprehensive service with an easily manageable, user-friendly approach, performed by a highly knowledgeable, passionately dedicated team of operatives and operational management. For decades, they have and continue to be a credit to this authority. However, the demands for greater scope from government, higher recycling levels, which in line with regrettable national trends have been falling here in Braintree, mean an operational change in this area, the like of which are unprecedented to this authority in its just over 50 years of existence. The methodology proposal we bring forward for consultation is just that, a proposal for consultation. No firm decisions, no job done decision making, nothing signed and sealed, and I must emphasise that strongly. Assessing the government requirements of collection, which require us to collect metal and glass from curbside, is a massive additional requirement and will lead to just that, more being collected from the curbside than is currently collected. As well as the demands for increased recycling, proposed changes will need to lever in behavioural changes, and that has to be in step with ongoing industry changes regarding packaging, all with the purposes of recycling more and sending less to landfill. After considerable work with officers and some extremely detailed assessments, benchmarking, policy analysis over months, the proposal sits in the body of the Cabinet reports. I thank hugely all those involved in getting us to the stage, especially Charlotte Payne, who brings not only her operational experience and flair, but a phenomenal depth of policy awareness and a record of shaping at national level within the District Council's network and close links to government departments. The proposal is based around key changes. Additional requirements we feel at this stage are best served by not commingling waste, hence altering the different bins for different recycling options, ensuring card and paper remain dry and the potential for increased value of recyclates is possible. This proposal brings an end to the fiddly, unsightly and not terribly weather-dependent spectacle of sacks. A glass and metal collection would alternate accordingly with paper and card. The weekly food caddy collection has been a feature of our service for some time, yet the caddies are rarely full. It is with that in mind, at this stage, we are proposing a move to a 3 weekly black bin collection. Appreciating this, for many, is a big suggested change in line with the additional requirements and additional bins. We are already aware and fully appreciate that if this proposal is to come to fruition, we need answers to the questions that our fellow residents are asking. This is what the consultation will do. Some of them include extra bins. We anticipate that around 24% of properties will be impacted by additional receptacles, living in houses either on the curbside or with small gardens to store these bins. We are looking operationally at how best to deal with this. Concerns over disposing hygiene products and nappies, etc. We need to make sure we have a solution to this. What bin do I put out when? Which week? If this proposal is to come to fruition, we need to make sure a comprehensive communications package is in place and deployed effectively across all mediums. If change comes, we must inform residents through every means practically possible. In terms of other practicalities, a required change will involve considerable set-up capital costs. However, if this proposal was to be agreed, projected revenue savings would help the authority's MTFS financial position. The financial modelling and assessments of all the options considered are included in this report. Therefore, tonight we take a first step with fellow residents to a new waste collection service for our district. Consultation will go live and complete at the end of March. The consultation will be visual and inclusive and designed to encourage maximum participation. A decision taken in May 2025, not before, with the implementation of a new service in the first quarter of the financial year 2026-27. I therefore, in line with the policy direction, move the following recommendations, as found on page 21 of the report. 2.1. To seek delegated authority to the Corporate Director, Support Services, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Transformation, the Environment and Customer Services, to finalise and enter into the EPP Collaborative Agreement. Oh, I do apologise. I'm reading the one for the procurement. I'm so sorry. I do apologise.
Thought for one horrible moment.
I was
me
going
not
some.
seeing
I
through
do
your
apologise. I was going very well then. Sorry. To agree. Hold that thought, we'll come back to that one. Sorry, my apologies. We'll edit that bit out of the tape. To agree to commence a public consultation on alternative fortnightly twin stream recycling with three weekly general rubbish collection and weekly food waste as the preferred waste collection methodology for the Braintree district. 2.2. To agree a trial of the collection of recycled materials and food waste from designated blocks of flats across Braintree district to establish suitable approaches for implementation by April 2026, utilising £20,000 of grant funding from government for the purchase of bins and receptacles. 2.3. To approve the carry forward of £360,000 for project costs over 3 years from the projected underspend of overachieved income in 2024-2025 within the operations budget to support the set-up costs of the proposed consultation and trial relating to resources for project delivery and community and engagement to all residents. And 2.4, to award the contract to Eventure Research for the purposes of analysing the consultation responses received by Braintree District Council for a contract value of £15,000. Mr Chairman, I so move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is that formally seconded, by the way? Thank you. Right, open to any comments or questions anyone has. Any at all? I know we have discussed this a number of times. Right, Councillor Spray and then Councillor Ritchie and then Councillor Mrs Peters.
Thank you, Leader. I, whilst acknowledging that this is a change, will be if it goes ahead for people, particularly with the change to the 3 weekly black or grey bin, whichever you want to call it. And people are, not everybody is going to appreciate that, and for some people it's going to be more difficult than others. But I do know that on my local Facebook pages, there are quite often comments from people along the lines of, wouldn't it be good if the council would collect the glass locally, and why don't they already? Wouldn't it be good if they collected the small metal pieces, and why don't they do that already? So I am hoping that at least people will be pleased to see that we are doing more with recycling. And there are bottle banks in my village, in Earlscone. In fact, all 4 villages in my ward have them, so it's not terribly difficult to get to them, except, of course, not everybody has a car to take their bottles of, down there. So I'm hoping that whilst people may think, not thrilled about 3 weeks rather than 2 weeks for the black bin, that there will be compensating factors that they will be pleased to see. And I think, as always with this local authority, we are consulting really well. We're giving everybody the opportunity to have their say on the difficulties they may face and how they feel about it. So plenty of opportunity for people to, put forward their opinion. And there is no doubt that our recycling has plateaued, and around the country we know it's dropping, and we do need to do something to increase that. And just one final point, I last week was taken on a tour of the Suffolk Energy from Waste facility at Great Blakenham, which was an absolute revelation. It really was. The amount of rubbish there that goes there, which otherwise would be going into landfill, and what they do there to transform it into other usable things is quite amazing. But it was an eye-opener, because the huge mountains of rubbish that comes in every day, 7 days a week, to that facility would otherwise be going into landfill. So we definitely need to be doing a bit better, and education is all part of that. So I'm fully supportive of this, and I hope that generally, once people have thought about it, I hope they will welcome the changes. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Do you want to come back now, or shall we?
Can I summarise?
Yes, summarise it. Councillor Frankie Ritchie.
Thank you, Leader. Well, before us tonight is a pretty large step change, if it were to be adopted, in how we tackle rubbish and curbside waste in the district. And one thing that this council has always been good at is responding to government initiatives, government timelines around how we approach various things, and on this occasion waste is one of those. This is no half-baked idea that has just been thought up on the hoof. This is a well thought out, with decent officers, subject matter expertise, in a way that would complement how we facilitate in helping those that live in our district to tackle a climate emergency whereby we are sending too much to waste. Let's be clear about this. And by adopting a long and thoughtful consultation process is a meaningful way of understanding how we can deliver that to our residents. As my fellow councillor has just mentioned, there will be those who are quite apprehensive about this change. I can just about remember the change when we went from weekly sacks on the side of the road to the 2 weekly pickup of waste in black bins. And back then I can remember there was a lot of sentiment around this will just not work. However, it has worked. But what we're clear on here is that as we know, the plateauing of the recycling rate needs to be improved. And if we can facilitate with our residents how we can improve on that, then it's absolutely incumbent on this authority to be able to explore that. And if we want meaningful change, sometimes we have to be bold in our approach in tackling how we want to have this meaningful change adopted in our district. I very much welcome the consultation period up until March. I believe it gives every resident the right and the opportunity to have their say around how they think this new dynamic change to recycling will work within the district. It's only right for us to listen to those responses and understand some of the comments that they might bring to us that we might not have fully thought through from start to finish, and weave into whatever decision-making approach we have after carrying out our due diligence. And there will be, hopefully, the minority who we may have to make some allowances for or some extra help for. But that's all part of this process, and I'm sure that at the end of this process it will lead us to the right decision making. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mrs Peevis.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. First of all, I also just wanted to congratulate the officer on this excellent amount of work that's coming forward, and the opportunity for members to be engaged at quite an early stage, I think, has been really helpful. So thank you for that. I think the consultation piece is really important, and I don't think we should underestimate at all how our residents are going to feel about this and how it felt last time around. And I'm sure every member in the council is preparing for this, because we certainly need to be prepared to answer residents' questions. Particularly, it's not just about the flats. So in Castle Hedingham, which is an area that myself and Councillor Taylor represent, it's, you know, chocolate box, you know, no front gardens, very, very narrow roads. And it's just making sure we have a system that works for everybody. I do remember last time around we had this slogan. I think the one I really remember was called Slim Your Bin. And I think that it would be quite helpful if we go back and revisit what we've previously done to help residents think, oh, here we go again, rather than another new whole load of words. I think if we can be consistent and pick up from where we left off, I think would be really helpful. And just going back to the community piece again, if I may, myself and Councillor Taylor have come from Castle Hedingham this evening for our Christmas tree light up, and they've got a fabulous tree in the village under their banner of reuse, reduce and recycle, and they've used it for a number of years. And you know, people aren't stupid. They know what they're doing. They know what they have to do. And I think if this was badged correctly and the engagement felt meaningful, I think we might be able to land this better than we think. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any other? Councillor Lynette Bowers-Flint.
Thank you, Leader. I think the biggest thing to this is the key of the communications, that we get that spot on, because, as been previously mentioned, already the comments on the Facebook pages are all very anti, because they don't know the whole true picture and the true story. So to get that communication, because one of the things that has been given to me is families with more than one baby with nappies, and also families with disabled children and elderly people who have incontinence pads, and obviously they are large, and obviously they hold a lot of liquid as well. So that's where I think we need to get A1 on the communication. And I feel quite safe with this, because purely and simply the officer who's overseeing it and in charge of it, and she won't mind me calling her this because I've done it before, she's a geek in the rubbish, and she is so expert in it, it is unbelievable. And I know what we will be delivered, or what we will try and deliver to the people of this district, will be the best that we possibly can as council. So I'm hoping that we get the communication right and the people understand, because we're not doing it right yet. We've not got it right. And I hark back to the days, because I'm that old, when the bin man used to come and empty the metal dustbin with the old metal lid every week, and how society has moved and how everything has become more rubbish orientated, really, more wrappings and everything. So yeah, we're moving on, and I'm glad that it's in the officer's hands that it is, because she is superb. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Bowers.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, no, I think starting with the report and following on from other comments about giving credit to Charlotte Payne, our head of operations, for the amount of work that's gone into this. But also, this is not just Charlotte Payne. This is a wider team that's spent a lot of time and effort, and will continue to do that. So first of all, give credit to the wider team, expertly led by Charlotte. Communication is definitely going to be key. I think any of us that have, from a council perspective, that have been involved in this up until now, I think that's the one thing that we've all raised is communication with our residents and making residents understand, also making councillors understand it, because making the point about there's a lot of talk on social media, as there would be with a change like this, but making sure our councillors actually are understanding of what the change is going to be, so we're not also misleading residents. I think that's very key as well. But that communication point starts with the consultation at the end of the day, you know, and like Councillor Ritchie referenced earlier about the length of the consultation and making sure enough time that people understand what it is, understand what the questions are, what they're being asked, and I can encourage them to please feed into that, because that will be key to everything. It is a large step change. It's different to anything that's come before. We are a council that have always gone head first into anything that needs to be looked at like this, and yes, this is coming from legislation, but it is our chance to be a bit of a game changer in regards this area. And that is what the option, I think, from my point of view, that 4C does provide us. As is in the report, there's been a number of options that have been looked at, and there's a number of options that have been considered in line with whether that's in line with the waste strategy and what that will do to recycling rates and in improving in recycling. And there's a number, obviously a lot of information in the report. Also looking at the financial impact in regards what that would do to our financial position, in regards what options may be viable and may not be viable, and I won't sort of repeat the numbers, but the numbers are in the report in regards the difference between what increase it would be from a revenue point of view, right the way through to a potential decrease, which option 4C gives us. But the decision is not just on financial grounds. We obviously need to make sure that this is affordable. However, it is going to be a substantial outlay from a capital expenditure point of view at the start of all this anyway. So whatever option we go with, from the number of options we've got, is going to be a financial impact on the authority. So it needs to be the right option for the right reasons, which I believe it is, and that's what residents will be giving their opinions on, and fleshing out the questions that I think we feel. We feel that we've covered everything as much as we possibly can, and that's not from an arrogant point of view, but that I'm sure that the residents will flag up stuff that maybe might not have been considered, or what that impact would be to different sectors of our population at the end of the day, because there are different things that will affect different people. So I would only just encourage as many people as possible to engage in the consultation. It is only at consultation stage. We are consulting on this option, but like I say, if it's key that we are getting those questions, we're getting those comments that we can feed into the wider decision making of this as we move forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Mary Cunningham and then Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. I acknowledge too the presentation that's before us that helps us to make these recommendations and decisions. A lot of work has gone into this from Charlotte and her team, and it's given us a huge amount that we can understand more easily what's before us. As others have said, communication is key, and I think within that communication too, we have to emphasise that there is some personal responsibility that has to go into this, because we're not doing this just because it's a nice thing to do. It's something that's come from the government. It's something that's very necessary. In my adult lifetime,
which is, I know, a number of years, I mean, how consumer-driven we are now, how much more waste we are producing. I remember the days when you had a kettle mended or you had your iron mended, whereas now you buy, use it for a little while, change the colour scheme, change the colour of some of the utilities or the implements that we buy. And all of this comes with packaging and a need to get rid of rubbish. So we have to actually be really on it in the way of recycling. I think there's sort of concerns around the 3-week household collection. I think actually if we can get residents to realise how important it is to recycle the food waste, which will go weekly,
Yes.
that then makes the 3-weekly collection much better, because who wants 3 weeks of food waste in a bin in the hot summer weather? It's much better to get rid of it weekly. So if we can bring in that change, I think that will actually change the idea of the 3-weekly delivery. Yeah, I think it's, as Councillor Beaver said, I think our residents are probably more on board with the right education than maybe we think they are. So, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with everything that colleagues have said, and I'd just like to say that the Braintree District's current service works very well. It's an excellent service. I think since been elected, not received a single complaint from a constituent about the waste collection service. I think the points Councillor Mary Cunningham just made, that a weekly food collection service and glass collections will actually reduce the amount of waste going to landfills. So in theory, black and grey or grey bins, as it were, you'd have less in them, which is, I guess, the central mission of this. From a practical point of view, the only communication I've had from a constituent is on the 3-weekly bin collection. A large family said, look, if we go on holiday a couple of days before the black bin's emptied, we come back a week later, in theory, it'll be 5 weeks until our bin will be emptied. I just wondered if there could be some consideration about that, because they said they might put themselves in a situation where they'll create side waste. That's the only, I think, practical question that's been raised by a constituent, which I thought, I'm not advocating the dial a collect and have a bespoke service where residents say, well, my bin's full and can you come and collect it early, please? I'm not advocating that at all, but I think some larger households might struggle for, as Councillor Bowles-Flynn said, things like nappies and other bits and pieces. So just some consideration there, really.
Thank you very much. Any other? Can I just say, first of all, Councillor Cunningham and officers, to thank you for the presentation that was made to all members the other night, which I think was extremely useful in helping us all to understand that. And also the meeting you had, Councillor Cunningham, with group leaders or their deputies as well. Whilst I'm on that, Councillor Mrs. Beavers, can I ask if you will, well, if I don't see him myself, thank Councillor Abbott for some very constructive remarks that he made on BBC Essex on Friday morning, which I think was extremely helpful to the debate, and I'm very grateful for that. Personally, I think we will need to think, if we go for the option here, of how we help some parts, if not all, our residents, first of all, in the initial period, to understand what it means for them on a week-to-week basis. It's all right at the moment where you say, well, it's green bin 1 week and grey bin the next week. Where it's slightly more complicated, we might need to give a bit more thought as to how we do that. And can I also just suggest that if you really do want to reduce the amount of food going into your green bin, do get yourself an Irish Terrier, because you don't get very much going into your green bin if you have an Irish Terrier, I can assure you. Right, back to you then, Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I don't want to repeat too much of what's been said. So I'm very, very grateful for all the contributions made in our discussion this evening. I'd like to thank Councillor Beavis for her positive and constructive observations, and she's absolutely right in referring to Sybil Headingham. we acknowledge that 24%, around 24% of the district could be operationally impacted along the lines she suggested in terms of having extra receptacles for this process to work. We have to give to that 24% or around 24% the assurance. We simply have to do that, and we're very, very mindful of that, and that's one of the things we really are looking at. We've already started to look at it, but operationally how we can overcome some of those hurdles. And a lot of points have been made about communication. We're going to need a comprehensive communication process, and if this policy comes into implementation in the first financial first financial quarter of 26-27, we are going to need to have that package in place to explain why what we're doing when various collections are taking place, and that will need perhaps a refocus and an embracing of perhaps maybe some traditional communication methods which we perhaps may have disregarded in recent years. I think everything has to be on the table with that. Councillor Taylor made some very good points about if you're going on holiday and how would that impact on a 3-weekly. The really positive thing that's coming out of this process so far, and we haven't even formally launched the consultation yet, is the fact that residents are responding with these very, very legitimate and well thought out queries. And again, it's one of those things that we have to have an answer to. He makes quite rightly the point about side waste. We did implement side waste. We've done quite a lot of waste in this sort of 18, 19 months of this council term so far. Some difficult policy decisions. The side waste policy implementation has been extremely successful. And I would say credit to the town of Witham, because it's the town of Witham that is producing the less additional side waste of any community across the whole district. So credit to Witham, but he makes a very legitimate point, and again we have to find the answer to that. And to find, and in summary, I'd just again like to thank all members for their active participation, particularly the role of opposition leaders and their representatives, and also like to particularly thank Councillor Abbott, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. He comes from many decades of policy conviction in this area and policy passion, and I think it's probably unsurpassed amongst any of the membership of the authority, and we're grateful for his input and the input of others as well. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. You have the recommendations in front of you. Colleagues, are you happy to accept those recommendations? Is that agreed? Thank you very much. We move on to item 6, to establish the Essex Procurement Partnership, approval of the procurement strategy and social value approach. These are on pages 21 to 49 of your agenda this evening, and the report is presented jointly in the names of Councillor Tom Cunningham and Councillor Kevin Bowers.
Chairman, thank you. If it's okay, I'll start with some introductory comments. Councillor Bowers will then take over, and then I'll move the recommendations at the end, if that's okay, please. Thank you. And the purpose of this report is to seek delegated authority for Braintree District Council to enter into the Essex Procurement Partnership Collaboration Agreement, which will formalise the working arrangements for operating the shared procurement service, with Essex County Council acting as the accountable body. And we're delighted that Braintree District Council has been actively involved in this work of securing better, more resilient procurement arrangements for the sector. And I'd like to thank all those involved in it, not just from our partners, but particularly James Sinclair, who has been leading on this, the procurement specialist working with us here at Braintree District Council and at Essex County Council. And why are we doing this? Well, of course, cost saving through procurement always has to be a motivating ambition. But actually doing procurement on this scale with Essex County Council as a major partner, and of course we've got to take into account the tremendous purchasing power of Essex County Council allied to the districts involved. You'll have a service and a process that ensures increased resilience, additional procurement expertise, greater assurance regarding compliance, the fundamental issue of savings, and reduced duplication. It allows us to also retain more staff working on this area, more quality staff with experience in this matter and with these matters, and generally improved practice across the board. And Chairman, again, it's about some fundamental principles of being business-like in our procurement and in our business transactions, appreciating that the way in which local government works, it isn't a business, but business-like principles. And I think through procurement on a wider scale, you minimise the risk of those rather short-term savings at any cost approach, which sometimes local government as a sector has fallen into some very noticeable bear traps. I wouldn't say this authority, but sometimes when there has been savings that have to be found through procurement, you look for the cheapest at all costs. Very often the quality of service is diminished. You get into an approach where you look at the cost of everything and the value of nothing. And sometimes those short-term wrong procurement choices have very, very long-standing impacts a little bit further down the line. And I think a more joined-up procurement process working across a larger area with greater expertise minimises that. A key factor of this is, of course, levering in social value, which is hugely important as part of the policy consideration. And at that point, I'll hand over to Councillor Bowers.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cullenham. Yeah, I think just a couple of bits before I sort of touch on the social value policy. The Essex Procurement Partnership is a true partnership. With equal representation from each member council on a number of boards which together set the operational and strategic direction of this shared service. Whilst there is a small increase in costs, it is believed that the benefits from the collaborative working will mitigate this and bring enhanced benefits over the 3-year period. The new procurement strategy will help set the direction for the partnership, and so procurement at BDC and the other members over the next 3 years with a focus on delivering the benefits described and meeting the council obligations under the new Procurement Act. This will be reviewed annually by all members to ensure it reflects evolving practices. And then moving on to the new social value policy, this will be setting out a new robust approach to the inclusion of social value in our procurement practice. Recognising our legal requirement to evaluate social value, this approach will support our suppliers in demonstrating the social, economic and environmental benefits they achieve when performing our contracts, and ensures a clear and defensible approach to evaluating this. Further to this, the suggested approach will better enable reporting of the social value delivered for Braintree to showcase the wider benefits our suppliers are delivering in our district and for our district. The Corporate Policy Development Committee considered this policy at their meeting in October, and then recommendations have been taken on board, and there was a good debate and discussion in this chamber at that committee. And with a number of views, and that's been fed into the final report before you tonight. It's just to say that the combination of the 3 elements that I've sort of described represents a step change in procurement practice, supporting the council in its delivery of its priorities and ensuring best value for residents. And this is what this is ultimately about. And then I'll hand back over to Councillor Cunningham for the recommendations.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Bowers. And I'll read the right recommendations this time, and that they are on page 21 of the report. And 2.1, to seek delegated authority to the Corporate Director Support Services in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Transformation, Environment and Customer Services to finalise and enter into the EPP collaboration agreement. 2.2, to agree to adopt the EPP procurement strategy as set out in Appendix A, setting the direction of procurement practice at Council for the next 3 years, subject to annual review. 2.3, to agree the social value policy and approach as set out in Appendix B, introducing a TOMS, Themes and Outcome Measures approach, based approach to evaluation and reporting on social value within the Council. Thank you, Chairman. I so move.
Thank you very much. It's moved and seconded. Open to discussion. Any comments or questions, anyone? No? Right. Well, I take it then that we approve that. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. We move then on to item 7, Income Management and Merchant Acquiring Service, which is on pages 50 to 56 of your agenda. You will be aware that although this report is in the public part of the agenda, it does contain a confidential appendix. Can members confirm that they're happy to proceed with this item in the public session and do not wish to raise any matters in relation to the confidential appendix? If you do, we will need to go into private session. Does anyone wish to raise anything that is in the confidential section of this report? No. In that case, we will take it entirely in the public session. So I move to, and I'll get there on the agenda myself, page 50. Sorry, spin through. Right, so it is Councillor Bowers. Must be one or other of you, but I just didn't want to know, make a mistake. Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Chairman. As referenced in the report before members tonight, the income management system is a business-critical application which enables the council to collect, allocate, manage and reconcile payments collected via telephone, the internet, chip and PIN device, cheques and cash, or monies paid directly into the council's bank accounts. The current system interfaces with other key financial systems, and elements of functionality are used across many services, including the contact centre, where payments are taken from service users for a variety of reasons. It is also worth noting that integration with the Bartex system is also currently being explored as part of the long-term payment solution for the Garden Way subscription service. The key date for the change in system is the end of April 2025, which is when the contract for the current system expires. The system is currently provided as an on-site solution which will no longer be supported by the current system provider at that point, with continuation of the service requiring a move to their cloud-hosted solution. As also referenced in the report, over the last 18 months, investment has been made into the current system in terms of implementing new payment infrastructure to streamline payment options, including via smart mobile devices. The move to an alternative solution would require a repurchase of the hardware at an additional cost. We obviously need to decide on this, as the do-nothing option is not really a viable option, as that would leave the council with an outdated, unsupported system, and in the event of a critical system failure, the council would be left without the ability to take payments. Also, there would be no saving from potential merchant acquirer services, with the existing service being rolled until an alternative is procured, and with cost anticipated to increase over the short to medium term. Alternative options within the market are limited. However, soft market testing has indicated that combined with the system and support costs, the cost of change and the disruption this would cause to existing payment infrastructure at a time when other developments are being made, the most economical approach would be to retain the existing system. Therefore, I am seeking agreement tonight to approve the award of a contract for the income management system and for the merchant acquiring services contract to be awarded to Capita Business Services Limited, subcontracted to Access PaySuite Limited, subject to final terms and conditions being agreed. The plan is to delegate to the Corporate Director for Support Services to agree the final terms and conditions of the two contracts to be provided that is within the approved budget. The full recommendations are set out in section 2 of tonight's report, and I move them. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowers. Is that formally seconded?
Seconded, Chairman.
Thank you. Any comments or questions at all? No. I take it you agree the recommendations contained in the paper, and you also take note of the confidential appendices that go with this paper. Agreed? Thank you very much. That brings us, I think, to the end of the agenda for tonight. Can I thank you all for your attendance? This will be the last Cabinet before Christmas and the New Year. Can I take this opportunity to wish you all, you and your families, a very happy Christmas and a very prosperous New Year. Thank you very much indeed.
You too.